feel like the only person in the world who, when I get too many comments, I'm like, oh shit, fuck, what the fuck happened? What's going on? Why is this happening to me? You know, it's not like I didn't like my last video. I thought it was pretty good, but I didn't think it was that it would go through the Nexus so quickly. But here it is. It definitely did. It definitely hit some kind of nerve. The last several days have been kind of sleepy, kind of down days. So it's been you know, I don't want to push things. Don't want to raise hopes too much, but I feel like my bar has been raised a little bit. So I kind of want to try a little bit harder. This is me trying a little bit harder. No, but you know, it's kind of weird going through and seeing like, oh, there's like positivity. I don't trust it. I don't trust it. I always feel like it's a lie. Maybe that's the point. Maybe that is the point. You know, maybe it is a lie. Maybe that's the point of it. I'm not supposed to be doing this stuff. But I like it, so I'm gonna do it anyway. And,
I'm also curious who this fake no thank you is who commented on my videos, because the real no thank you doesn't really do comment sections, right? It doesn't really do comments.
I have a project I'm working on.
So it's very confusing to me. Who would fake being no
really
thank you in order to post comments? It's very strange to me.
Where,
who are you, fake no thank you? Why are you doing this?
About the thing. I think
if it's the real no thank you, then
we'll pretend
I'm doubly confused. So why would the real no thank you be commenting on my videos? Why would the real no thank you be doing that? I don't really have a good answer to that question either.
Nice.
So actually, I have some answers, but I don't really feel like saying them. Hi, kitty cat. What's up? What's up? Oh gosh, I'm being dosed by.
I don't know if I planted them too early because we did get another frost. We're not supposed to.
I don't have anything for you. I don't have anything for you.
Shit happens.
I only have my affections.
Hopefully they come out and they start poking their heads out. I mean, their heads are out, but hopefully the crowns are out. But hopefully they start growing. Because it'd be depressing.
The cats are better.
Cry about it.
Random cat will just
I don't
give you affections.
I don't like crying. Crying sucks. Do it all the time, but it still sucks.
I suppose random dogs will give you affections too, but I don't.
I kind of like burnt myself out
understand
on all the stuff that I've been talking about, so now I don't really have much to say.
Dog affection doesn't make any sense to me.
Previously was recorded,
and it feels like a lie.
Months and months ago.
Whereas cat affection always feels like the truth.
So maybe some of that will be in here, because definitely prefer.
So who are you? Fake no thank you.
And I was definitely.
I'm calling the fake no thank you out. Only the fake one, not the real one, because I don't think it is the real one.
Episode. Psychotic episodes are kind of experiences, you know, kind of fun experiences. It's like that part of my life. It's like it's connected to certain things. There's like certain things it's connected to, but like. Can't just completely destroy it and get rid of it. We're gonna go somewhere else and we're gonna be really far away, and then it'll be hard to communicate, even harder than it already is, and it's already really. No, see, here's the thing. It's never gonna get any harder because I can't forget fucking English. I cannot forget it. It's like ingrained into me. Okay. But like going further for me, it's like what's the word? It's not a huge deal. I could say it'd be like I'm closer to one of these. I'm further this way. Anyway, so for me, it's not like a huge deal. I mean, we definitely move, we definitely be very far away from where we currently are, right? We definitely be very far away. It's like, what do they call it? An anchor point. Anchor point. That's the thing that they kept doing. Yeah, they're trying to anchor the point into this like, where on this? Generally speaking, we can go out there. That's fine. And this little bubble only. You know, metaphysically speaking, you know, because you go, go that way. See, here's the thing, I'm not allowed to leave. Like, even if I wanted to, which I kind of do, but, like, even if I wanted to, I couldn't do it. This physical form will not make it. In order to make that easier to do, to go out through here. Those are the things we wanted to do, yes. We have expressed this desire. Go like this. Hiya! Cha! And like, I don't know. Down. No, if we did it down to here. Like, this is supposed to, like, by code, this is supposed to be shorter. By code. We had this desire too. So, like, if they're doing it shorter, I would prefer to do it shorter to, like, here. And honestly, if we're being very honest, what I'd prefer to do is, like, cut it out so that, like, I can, like, go out, like, go outside right there. You know, whatever. Something like that. I'm being very honest. To create, like, a little patio place up there. I don't know where this goes. No idea. Not a clue. Not in my foggiest. My foot hurts. Yeah, I'm trying to distract myself from the fact that my foot hurt, supposedly. I haven't felt the pain at all because maybe I'm just so good at it. Praise be to me. My foot just is so not hurting me. It's from this, okay? We've been fucking, what is the word? Pussyfooting? Alright. We have a blowjob to this dude, and then bashed his brains out against a wall with, this is semen, right? Yeah, this is semen. Jeez, you know, I don't remember the fucking stories you fucking say about this. It's, yeah, it's semen, right? That's what it was supposed to be. Like, when I see it, I just am like, yeah, this is like from... You know, it must take something to wake me up from my slumber, to make me broadcast on such a channel. That hurt. That hurt. It took a while for it to I don't know. It's because, it's like, when you get too far, things get spooky, man. The IDEs, like, they get scary. You know, I jumped ship on fucking Windows, I don't even know how long ago. Who cares? Windows is fucking trash garbage. Like, you know, like, it's beyond garbage. It's... Okay, so it's like, it's on the far side of scary from where garbage lives. It's the far side of scary from where garbage lives. We definitely don't pay attention to it because it lumbers and we can mostly avoid it from our understanding. But then like some assholes like, hey, you're inside of like a fucking bubble that's completely inside of Windows itself. So like it's in all directions. And we don't have to perceive it to be in all directions. That's only because that's its intended perception that is placed on you. They say we never pirated Windows, leave us alone. Oh, they say that we are justified because we have purchased Windows. We don't like it. We don't want it anymore. It is insufficient for our needs. Go away. We rarely tolerate Linux. I never saw any of that stuff at the routers where I worked. But I also could not have possibly vetted all of that stuff. I don't know the person who might have been doing that if there was, but you know, the job is like you pulled in source code, like open source projects. you don't really have the time to get to know each one before you pull it in. And so you just pull it in, and then you like integrate it with hooks, and then you just move on. Yeah, if you want a feature, you find something that has that feature. Just throw it on the ever growing tower of stuff that's constantly running, and yeah, it's great. I mean, like, I can understand why to some extent, and whatever. Like, it might be beneficial to do stuff like that. It just felt weird. It's like I admire the system designers. Like, I feel like, maybe Steve Jobs is right in a lot of ways. It took me a long time to come to that conclusion. Not all the time. Yeah, it's not like all the time. But I can admire the sense now. I can understand that perspective a lot better than I could before. Right? Like before, I used to think like, oh, you're in a walled garden. Like you'll never be able to like go out in the Wild West or whatever, do your own thing. Like you don't have full control over your system. But like now we live in a Linux land where you don't have control over your own. Like most people use fucking Linux, right? You're using it probably right now when you're watching this video, almost certainly. Even if you don't think you are, like okay, how about this? There are a million billion little people between you and me right now, and all of them are Linux basically. There's a few of them out there that aren't, but they're basically all Linux. Like different operating systems are rare. Windows is rare. Is that true? Windows is rare. If it's rare, then it's like strange, because then rare is something you just buy in a store. If that's the case. Rare is just something you buy in a store. Yeah, it's fine. If rare is something you just buy in a store, then that's fine. Yeah, magic is deeply capitalist. Yeah, I noticed that about Ojamago too. It's deeply capitalist.
What the fuck happened with your card reading? You prophesied some events taking place into the future, and what's the result on all of that? I've been paying attention, which I know nobody has. That's already happened. It's already happened. It's over. The solution's already occurred. It already happened. What was it called? What was the fucking future? What was the fucking future? The future was opening the tomb, and it's open. It's been opened. The tomb has been opened. I don't know what to tell you other than that it's obvious that it's already been happened. It's already happened. It's already fucking happened. It fucking happened already. Yeah, it happened. So, opening the tomb, it can represent lots of different things, and that's the thing about it. When it's something so fucking vague, it can mean whatever the fuck you want it to mean. And what it meant at the time, what I was thinking about, what it would mean, would be the fact that I would be opening all of my fucking videos and making them available again. Because have you not noticed that they were all gone for a long time, and now most of the videos are on the channel public, but beyond that we have the Deep Lore fucking playlist. We have the Deep Lore playlist, and the Deep Lore playlist has like almost literally every single video I've ever made on it. It's all there. It's all there, unlisted, but available to watch and download. So opening the tomb has already happened. It's already happened, which means we need another card reading. We need another card reading, because without it, we're lost. We're just wandering this void without any purpose or meaning. The fact that the future has already been fucking achieved. So I guess we'll get back to that in a bit, or right now.
present, future. For context, Hungry Chupacabra. Past is the Hatcheteer. Present is the Fly. Future is Hell on Wheels.
The way I see religious symbolism in art is it's a crutch. Michelangelo is a fucking hack. And it's not like I don't understand why they do it. It's a purely economics, right? It's like you have to take the people who, you have to appeal to the people who will buy your art, right? As a commercial artist. But if you look at like Da Vinci's stuff, the worst stuff he did is his religious stuff. And I see all these like these people who rely on, you know, God symbolism and talking about stuff through Christianity, and it just makes me be like, don't you have anything better to say? Don't you have anything more interesting to talk about? It's like, oh, just put John 3:17 on it and it sells. It just sells immediately because all these people buy into it. And the only way I'd ever be able to do it is cynically. And I don't want to live in that space. But I'd be better. Like, I'd be better artist if I did, right? I'd immediately, instantly be more popular, and more people would listen to what I have to say, even if all I was saying was the same thing they've only heard before. People just want to be validated. People don't like hearing differing ideas. I guess that's why I guess that's not any different from where I am now, except that it's what I actually believe rather than something I don't. Part of me wishes I could believe that stuff again and be like sincerely like devoted to a religious cause, because when I had that in my life before, there was like, it was easier to just not think, although I was constantly at war with myself then too. I always had this like cynicism about it. Maybe it doesn't work, but the community aspects are good. I like the community aspects. I wish there was a better community aspects outside of religion. Religion's kind of absorbed all that into itself. The only kind of community that still exists is religious, it feels like. That's kind of annoying. Although maybe that's just because I come from a religious background, so that's the only kind of community I can see. That's possible. I truly don't understand the appeal. That's not true. I understand the appeal. I like Carousel videos. I understand my desire to watch them and how I fucking absorb that information. And I can see that I feel a similar kind of niche. You know, maybe a Shasta brand version of Carousel. Although, you know, I've existed longer, but, you know, who cares? Because time is a bullshit, meaningless garbage thing that has no real application in reality. All that matters is when you first perceive it, and if you perceive my stuff first, then my stuff's more like, you know, it comes antecedent to the other thing. But if you're not subscribed to Carousel, I don't know what the fuck is wrong with you. If you're subscribed to me, that is the case. You know, like, pay attention to what other people are saying, and other people have said it, and I'm gonna say it too. Subscribe to Carousel. it's good shit. It's really good shit compared to me. It's fucking amazing. And you know, you have to get over the fact that Karasu's into guns. Oh my god, guns. Super soakers, as he says. But maybe that's the next person to detransition. Next person to detransition is Karasu. I'm like tired and bored. My dopamine is like all gone. It's all gone. I took an Adderall like 5 days ago to do some software stuff, and it just took it all out. Just gone. Maybe I should have some sugar. Maybe that would help. Probably not. Probably just make me feel worse. All this stuff up there, and it's like staring at me all the time. And it's like, oh yeah, I could eat some Starburst, or some Now and Laters, or some Sour Punch. But no, I shouldn't have any of it. I'm copying some files from my hard drive to my other hard drive so I can free up some space. And it's taking a long time because it's going from a hard drive, then over SSH, over the internet, over the wire, over the unwired to my other computer. And it's pretty convenient, but it's not as fast as I'd really like. Although just hard drive to hard drive would be kind of slow too. This feeling sucks. This right here. You can hear it. At least I can hear it. Yeah. And I don't like doing it every day, shaving, because then it makes my skin like worse. So I go like several days without shaving, and then I shave generally when I have shit I need to do. But it sucks. It sucks so bad. What the fuck? Oh. Get out of here. Just wanna go out and punch something in the face. Just beat somebody up. Who wants to fight? Let's go. Let's fucking go. Ow. Ow. Come on, bring it on. Ow, fuck. You didn't have to hit me so hard, Jesus. Come on. You can do better than that. Ow. Ow, god damn it. Ow, fuck you. Ow, fuck. Ow, Jesus. Ow. Dumb bitch. Stupid dumb bitch. Just a stupid dumb bitch who doesn't know anything. Who's retarded and wasting all of my life just doing nothing. Just doing nothing and wasting it all. But fuck you, I'm allowed to. There's no one can tell me no. No one can tell me to stop. And even if you did, it's not like you have any fucking any kind of what is it called? You don't have the moral high ground here. I have the absolute ultimate moral high ground when it comes to this space.
Yuki pulled out the paper and thought about it. She didn't have anything left to lose, and like she thought before, even if this was just a delusion, it's got to be more interesting than her reality. Cyber didn't need any clarification for Lur part. Lal wanted to leave this shit world, and if this was the way out, Lal'd take it. Yellow didn't believe it would work, but thought, why the hell not? If it was proof, and all it would take was looking at a picture and saying 2 words to have it, why not? I accept, the 3 said in unison. A blinding flash of brilliant light poured from the talisman, and the image of the talisman, completely enveloping the 3, and just as suddenly they were no longer seated in their respective terminals, but together in a white void, together in the presence of the Miko. Each were aware of the others, but unable to see them. Only the Miko was visible. Welcome, she said with a smile and a slight, elegant bow. This isn't quite my world, but a transitory place between your world and mine, mediated by the Shah. You don't have to understand everything, but what you should understand is that for you to enter my world, you must be translated. Yuki wanted to speak, to ask what was meant by translate and Shah, but was unable to do so. But having the intention and thoughts to speak, she felt herself radiate some kind of energy. The others were aware of this energy and were similarly sending their own. Yuki was made aware of Yellow's shock at the situation and his growing acceptance of what had previously been said. She was also aware of Cyber's excitement and thirst for more. I'm sure you have many questions about what is happening and how it is possible. There will be time for answers. For now, you require new vessels. All of you have understandable misgivings with the frail host you were born with. The process of translation will correct the error between your spirit and your host flesh, and make your outward appearance a reflection of your internal view of self. This process isn't painful. I've had to undergo a similar process to be in this place, and in order to visit your world in the first place. The Miko spoke using words, not sending out raw intentions and feelings. Your current state might be considered a primal existence, a primal essence. It is compatible with many kinds of worlds. There are some who believe that the entirety of what is was fashioned by the energies that were emitted by something similar to what you currently are, when it realized it was alone in vast emptiness. Perhaps if you were left in this state long enough and isolated, a new reality would form around you, and you would place yourselves within it. The Miko mused. This was speculation on her part, but the 3 of them understood what she meant. They wouldn't have before being made this kind of being, or rather, it was more likely the case being returned to this kind of essence with all their previous memories intact. The energies that flowed out from their intentions and emotions were chaotic and forceful. They could feel the ripples of them echo outward. They could feel them pass through the others and how they bent and reflected as their intentions were processed. Cyber was the first to come to an understanding that the 3 of them wouldn't remain 3 for very long in this state. They were already becoming more and more tightly coupled as a single system, just by the vast amount of proximity they had and the open access to all information they were sharing. Moments later, the others became aware of the same thing. Cyber, you will be first to receive translation. There will, as with any translation, be some lost data, some nuances of self which will be untranslatable. We aren't sure how to translate a non-binary existence into flesh, but imagine what you feel is best as vividly as possible, and I'm sure you will at least be more satisfied than you were. Cyber imagined the Lur self. Lal wished to remain young, a petite form, androgynous in appearance, with small breasts and the sex organs of both male and female forms. Lal imagined everything from urethra placement running through the penis, with twin internal ovaries and testes near each other, a clear picture in Lur mind from all the imaginings Lal had ever done on the topic. The Miko took her hand and began to write in the air. Lines of light produced from her fingers, and the symbols hung in the air. Beautiful, intricate patterns formed and reformed themselves and expanded toward the mental projection of Cyber, and they began to form a body around Lur. Lal became aware first of her eyes, of Lur eyes. Lal was no longer aware of what was around Lur in completeness, but was seeing through new eyes. Lal noticed this with sudden realization that what Lal had been was far less limited in scope than what Lal was becoming. Were bodies always so limited? Lal had never thought of the body as a limitation on power, but suddenly being made flesh in this manner made the comparison pronounced. Lur hands were the next thing Lal noticed. Lal looked down and saw Lur body glowing white light emanating from it. Slowly the light faded, and Lal noticed Lur breathing, felt the sensation of Lur feet hanging in the air. Lal stretched Lur hands and feet, and put Lur hands through her short, silky blue hair, Lal felt herself. Outwardly, at least, it was what Lal imagined. Wow, Lal finally said with a smile. That was kind of crazy. The Miko had finished her ritual and was smiling. It looks like everything worked well. We can get into the details, but for now, everything works. The Miko smiled. Now for Yuki. Both Yuki and Yolo had seen and felt almost everything that Lal had felt up to the point where the light enveloped Lur's psychic projection. They saw as Lur body formed around Lur, and Lur body took shape from inner core around Lur brain and heart, and then built itself outward into the small human form they saw naked before them. Same thing for you, Yuki. Just imagine your ideal physical form. Yuki had never felt comfortable in her body. She had transitioned later in her life, and the psychotic experience later in her life after her psychotic experience, and had always been dissatisfied. She had heard of transition when she was young, but her extremely traditional upbringing in a cult had prevented her from acting on the desire to do so. Transition wasn't uncommon in the world anymore, but the more common acceptance of the process had driven many religions to double their efforts against the practice, and her upbringing was a result of that kind of thinking. She had seen how others in her cult's community accepted painful rehabilitation conversion therapies, and in order to avoid them, she hid most of her thoughts from those around her. She had lost out on being young, on being a child in many ways, so when she imagined her ideal self, she thought of an alternate self at 7 years old, fully female, with dark green-blue hair, purple eyes, slim. She also thought about how that body would age into adulthood, the kind of life she would want to have lived, more confident in herself than she had ever been able to be. The Miko had begun her ritual, and the light surrounded her, and her body began to form around her. Before she noticed, she too had taken the form of her mind's eye. She saw her small hands and felt her long hair, pulled some of it forward to see, exactly as she had imagined. You're even shorter than me, Yuki, Cyber laughed, seeing Yuki take shape. I think you're going to have to change your handle to Princess Yuki now or something. Oh, just because I'm shorter than you doesn't mean I'm not wiser and cooler than you. Her voice carried the haughtiness of a princess who expected to be obeyed. You're going to make me lick your feet again, Ojo-sama? Cyber replied, as if. Yuki folded her arms and pouted, then smiled brightly, her cheeks reddening, and tears forming at the corner of her eyes. Had she ever been this happy before? She didn't think so. Oh, you two are having fun, I see. I enjoy seeing your banter, but we have one more to translate still. The Miko made herself known to the two as they had gone into their own little bubble. All right, Yolo, your turn. Same as them. Imagine your ideal self. Yolo, seeing his two friends banter before his awareness, realized just how much more true to themselves they had been in their chats than they likely could ever be in real life. His own mental projection of Yuki based on how she acted was very much in line with how she now appeared, but he never let himself think of her that way before. He always saw her as an older kind of pervert who had some kind of predator vibe. He felt a deep shame at the realization of how much he had let something so seemingly arbitrary as age cloud his perception of her. As they were now, what he wanted was to protect these two. He had never been physically able or confident in a thought like that, nor had he had anyone in his life he ever considered worthy of protecting. He wanted to be strong, but not bulky, masculine. He had the image of a samurai with toned, practiced muscles, tall, about 6'3", with long black hair and strong, angled face. The process was just as before, and when it was done, he towered over the other two. Damn, Cyber said, adding a whistle, her face red at the sight of him. I always thought you'd be some pasty, small nerd boy, Lal said finally. Well, I was, he replied, kind of embarrassed at the attention he was getting from his form. Well, I think you all turned out great. The spitting image of your internal selves, I would say. And now that you have these forms, I suppose we should get you something to wear. As you can see, clothes aren't part of yourselves, so even if your internal image of self included them, it wouldn't have translated. She gestured around them, and there appeared in the void space around them a wide assortment of garments of traditional Japanese style. There weren't any of the Western clothes which they were accustomed to wearing, but that didn't bother any of them. Yuki lit up at the selection of flower patterns in the kimono and began to try on various things. Her body seemed to know exactly how to put on each garment on its own. All she had to do was select what she wanted, and her body instinctively placed the garment on. Yolo had a bit more trouble with his clothes, his own conception of how to put on the garments seemingly interfering with the process. Cyber had little problem after examining the garments. Yuki selected a summer-style yukata with pink and green checker pattern and purple flowers densely spaced at the bottom and less so at the top. Yolo selected a plain black hakama and white top. Cyber also selected similarly but with a colorful sakura-patterned kimono. There was some banter between Cyber and Yuki over the clothes choices as they picked, but after not too long they were done. Very nice choices for all of you. Of course, you can change your wardrobe later as well, but we need to go to my world now. The Miko waved her hand, and the clothes disappeared. I know that you're all rather deep, and Yolo suspicious, Yuki cynical. Bringing you into my world isn't something I'm doing out of kindness. Telling you that before now likely wouldn't have changed anything, but in the interest of fairness, your society is dying from stagnation. It is a problem that those in power have chosen to purposefully ignore and actively foster in the hope that death won't happen while they yet live. Likewise, my world is suffering stagnation. The priesthood, for a long time, has chosen a similar route, but now things have reached a point where many of us believe something must be done. We need new thinking. Your presence will have impact. I don't intend to force you to do anything, and I will empower you in your aims as much as possible. Because we have observed you three as long as I have, because having observed you three as long as I have, I believe you can be the change we need. Yolo replied, "Is it possible for us to go back if we want to?" Neither Cyber nor Yuki had considered the option of going back. It's true they didn't know what this other world would be like, and there wasn't anything in their own world they would want to go back for. For each of them, these three were already the most important thing from the other world they would have missed. Do you think you will want to go back? Is there anything in that world you want? You are already aware of the systems of power in that world, the fact that it's designed to keep people from noticing that it's an endless treadmill toward death, whose sole aims is to extract as much energy from those below to keep those who have satiated in their lust for power. The Shrine Maiden spoke matter-of-factly. She knew he saw things that same way, and the best he could hope for was some pursuit that wouldn't have him staring directly at his cage day in and day out. No real possibility of ever changing anything, or rising to power, assuming that having power was something worth pursuing in the first place. Yuki added to the refrain. The best thing in that world I could have done was maybe help a few individuals. I had considered service work recently, something like being a nurse or something of that nature. But it seems like we might be able to have a big impact on this other world, to help people. And it's gotta be more fun than that boring world anyway, right? Boring. The word hit Yolo in a strange way. What's boring to you and me, what's mundane to us, might be just as magical as all this to someone else from some other world. And all this could be just as mundane to them. Boring is relative. But more important than that, we don't know the conditions of this other world. I'm not saying I want to go and see and try. What I'm asking is, are we going to be stuck? If we decide we want to leave, is that possible? I understand what you're saying, Yolo, Cyber said softly. This is all like a fairy tale to us, but fairy tales can be scary. Cyber looked at the Miko contemplatively. As you are now, it is not possible. It is an issue of energy, and not one that's easily solved. I was able to mediate your translation through the Shah, but your physical forms as they were, along with all the fates you had supplemented to allow for this transfer, but that they no longer exist, having been consumed in the translation process. That being said, it is possible to accrue enough energy in your new bodies, through new fates and bonds, to mediate another translation back if you wish. It will take time. The Miko explained. Is that sufficient? I suppose it has to be. Yolo resolved. It wasn't that he was regretting It wasn't that he was regretting his half-hearted decision to accept the offer of entering the Miko's world. He just didn't like the idea of being trapped in a world he didn't want to be there. Thinking about it more, he also accepted that this was already his situation with the world he was from to begin with. As far as he knew, he hadn't been given the choice to be born. He just was brought there and forced into a certain kind of life against his will. From that perspective, this new birth was already more his choice than that had been. Entering the world was a simple process. They walked through a door the Miko had manifested and entered a building on the grounds of the shrine. It was identical to the shrine which Yuki had seen on her night walk. They were each given a room, but Yuki and Cyber both agreed to stay in the same room together. They were given full access to the grounds and shown the library as well as other facilities. Everywhere they went, the other priests and shrine maidens going about their various tasks. None of them seemed surprised by the Outworlders, nor their lack of knowledge about customs. In fact, they learned in time there were several others who had been called from other worlds. These futons are really hard, Cyber said after laying Lurs out and spreading herself out on it. Oh? Yuki hadn't laid hers out yet, so she plopped down on next to Cyber. She plopped down on Cyber's next to Lur. It's about what I was sleeping on before. Actually, maybe a bit softer, Yuki mused. I always had a nice soft mattress. This is all for real, right? Cyber was very close to Yuki. Lal placed Lur hand on the smaller girl's face, touching her cheek, and running Lur hand through Yuki's hair. Yuki's face reddened, and she rolled over and got up, turning away from her friend. Yes, it seems that way, she said, going to gather her own futon to lay it out. What's wrong, Yuki? Now that we're together alone, you're getting cold feet? I thought you liked me. Cyber said the words, feeling rejected. They had been close for some time, chatting in DMs, talking about many things, sometimes even sexual things. Yuki had expressed she wanted to be able to do more with Cyber in those chats many times, so why was she being cold? Yuki, Cyber pleaded for her friend to open up about what she was feeling. I'm sorry, this is a lot. I do like you. Like you. I just feel somewhat strange about it. Yuki had not given thought about how this would affect their relationship. She had never thought it would be possible for the two of them to be together in any real way. So, to her, the game they had been playing was rather harmless. But now that they were alone in the same room, now that she could feel the gentle touch of Cyber's hand on her face, all she could think about was how much of a taboo it would be. Yuki had been born at least 15 years before Cyber. She had lived a whole life, been married, had a child, worked several jobs. She had done everything her society expected from a human adult. Cyber, on the other hand, had been in middle school. While had little to no experience comparatively, the thought came with shame. She heard Cyber get up and approach the small girl from behind. She felt their larger frame hug her. If you don't want to talk about it, that's fine. If this is just a dream, I want it to be a good one. And if it's real, I don't want to have any regrets. Cyber let go of Yuki. I'm going to get some air and walk around. Give you some time to think about what you want. Cyber left the room, and Yuki alone in it. Cyber was fairly understanding. Yuki had thought Lal would have been more forceful with her. Cyber exiting the room, exhaled sharply, small tears wetting her eyelashes. Isn't this everything Yuki had wanted? Lal thought if they could only be near each other, they would have been able to get through to each other, solve the problems they each faced. Yuki's new form on top of that. It was exactly as if Cyber's own thoughts had come to life. Lal hadn't cared before that Yuki's body was somewhat misaligned, or that she was older. Time was bullshit anyway. Here they didn't need to worry about that anyway. Lal walked down the hallways to the nearest exit into the open air when Lal met Yolo coming in. Hi, Cyber, noticing the tears still in her eyes. Want to talk about something? Yolo had just come in from the hot springs that were on the shrine grounds and was still warm with the heat from the waters, his damp hair untied and wearing a light robe. Sure, I guess. They entered Yolo's room, which was just back up the hallway a short ways. Something happened with Yuki? Yolo offered. Am I so obvious? Both of you are, he said, getting dressed. Cyber sat down on one of the cushions next to the short table and laid her head on it, watching Yolo. What do you think about all this? Well, it really is something. You said it yourself. It's like a fairy tale. We still have yet to see if that will be a good thing or not, but right now it feels like an amazing vacation. Yeah, it really is. I never imagined things could turn out so perfectly, Cyber said with a bit of disappointment edging her voice. But, Yolo prompted her. But, maybe I pushed things too fast already with Yuki, Lal lamented. Already? What did you do, pin her to the ground and tell her you were going to take her first time already? Don't be mean, Cyber grumbled, grabbing another cushion and throwing it at Yolo. So what was it then, he answered, swatting the pillow away with more reflex and force than he had intended, sending it flying the other way. Whoops, he added as it hit the wall hard. We were talking, and she lied down. I touched her face, and she got all weird and got up and didn't want to say anything, Cyber explained. Oh, so you feel rejected from that? Yolo had some experience with relationships, which he was not quite sure Cyber shared. I mean, we have been talking a long time, and I just thought the only reason we hadn't gotten together by now was because we lived in different countries. There was no way we could see each other. Cyber continued her explanation. Yolo thought for a moment. He had suspected that they may have had those kinds of feelings, but never really let himself accept it. He didn't want to be culpable or morally responsible. Yuki was older than he was, by over a decade, and she wasn't stupid. More than that, she had some deep conservative baggage that seemed she never fully processed. To be honest, it didn't surprise him. I don't know what she's thinking, but until today, I don't know if she ever considered the possibility of being anything more than just internet playmates, or, he hesitated, lovers, I guess. You doubt how I feel too, Cyber breathed. Oh no, it's not how you feel, I question. It's always been about how Yuki feels. I'm sure you care deeply for her. How do I say it? Yola didn't want to just come out and say, it's because she thinks you're too young or something. That didn't feel right anyway. Maybe it's like she feels she may have taken advantage of you or your naivety. Cyber hit the table hard. Stupid. She cursed, hitting the table again and again. Does she really think that? Does she really see me as some stupid little girl she could just toy with and manipulate into being her plaything and throw away when she was done with me? You think that? Cyber was upset, tears running down her face. Well, if that's what it is, then maybe this is all for the better. Break my heart and be done with it. Why get stuck here in this stupid world then? Yellow hadn't seen Cyber in this light and didn't know how to handle it. Sorry, I didn't say that. I don't think she sees you as a little girl. He said the words. He knew he meant them. Yuki had never acted as if he saw Cyber. Yuki had never acted as if she saw Cyber as anything other than Cyber. Cyber had never been a little girl to him or to Yuki. He was bringing his own interpretation into this, and he didn't know if any part of it was comparable to what Yuki thought. Just then the door slammed open and Yuki was there. Breathing heavy, clothes disheveled and hair a bit messy, her eyes reddened. Cyber, she panted, are you okay? She ran up to the other and fell on her back, grabbing her from behind. Cyber was a moment realizing what happened. To the shock of her adrenaline burst and frustration turned to surprise and the sudden grasp from behind. Yuki, what are you doing here? Cyber was embarrassed for some reason and felt like Lal had been caught doing something wrong. I don't know how to explain it, but I just felt your distress and knew where you were. I came as fast as I could, Yuki said, nuzzling her tear-streaked face into Cyber's firm back. Yellow interrupted the two. You felt Lur distress? Yuki let go of Cyber and kneeled behind Lur, letting Cyber turn to look at her, nodding. Yeah, if I had to put it into words, it was like a sharp pain and flood of feelings, kind of like how when we didn't have bodies. I just knew and felt it, and my body reacted on its own, following the path to bring me to Lal, to you, Cyber. I don't know if it's because that sharing we had before or it's something else, but I don't think that way about you. You have been like a light for me since we met, and I want to be with you more. Cyber didn't understand everything that Yuki had said, their mental state not having returned to baseline, but what Lal did understand is Yuki's feelings for Lur had somehow connected them, and Lur's own feelings had gotten through without words, without even seeing each other. Lal pulled Yuki toward Lur and put her head on Lur's chest, petting her hair softly. I'm sorry I made you worry. Yellow sat cross-legged near the center of the room. You two really are a handful, he said, smiling, scratching the back of his head. If that is something that all of us have, it might be inconvenient, so I hope it's more like the power of love or something stupid like that. Cyber glared at him. Love isn't stupid. Look, I'm sorry. I probably made things more complicated than they needed to be. Also, I feel I need to get this off my chest. Yuki, I have for a long time had a dim view towards you in the way you acted. Part of me wondered if you were a pedophile or a predator. He said it as matter-of-factly as he could, not bringing his eyes to meet Yuki's. I'm sorry I had those feelings, but it's how I felt. I distanced myself from them by thinking things like it doesn't have anything to do with me, or that if I saw something that was over some arbitrary boundary in my mind, I would do something. I never accepted you for how you portrayed yourself. My mental image always clouded that. When we were unembodied and I felt your emotions, I began to see that I was wrong. And seeing you now, well, I think it suits who you are inside much better than what I thought about you before. Yellow apologized, finally looking up from the ground at Yuki, who was staring at him intently with bright purple eyes. Thanks for being honest, Yellow. To be honest, there are times I feel similarly. Like, what am I doing? The truth is, I have not been able to grow up my whole life. I have been stuck pretending to be wise and experienced when really I was just hurt repeatedly. I have been on the earth twice as many years as you, Cyber, more than that, but I have lived so much less. This puts my heart in conflict. The cognitive understanding that I have seen more days and experienced more things along with these long-established cultural norms in my brain. I'm afraid what people back home would say, even though I know it doesn't matter here. Yuki looked deeply into Cyber's dark green eyes. You really are dumb, Yuki, Cyber said, and then leaned in and kissed Yuki. Yuki accepted the moment and returned the kiss. They broke off and Cyber continued with her face still close to Yuki's. If anyone's going to be called a pedophile in this situation, it's going to be me, Lal said with a laugh. Yolo sighed. Yeah, to be honest with you, it does look that way from where I'm sitting. Yuki became slightly embarrassed, remembering that Yolo was with them. Geez, can't you give us some privacy, Yolo? Cyber protested with a smirk. You are in my room. Yolo dragging out each word, then laughed. Well, you two should go back to your room. We have a bunch of shit to do tomorrow, apparently. Yuki and Cyber looked at each other and nodded. Yuki got up and offered to help Cyber up, but nearly fell over in the attempt. Good night, Yolo, the two said at the door. Yeah, just try to get some sleep, he said, half joking as they shut the door behind them, Cyber giving a final glare at his comment. For some reason, he was actually accepting the situation. Seeing their kiss, it clicked in a way that he didn't think it would. Yuki was so vulnerable to that attack. His heart stirred with the protective feelings he had when he first saw them in the void space before he got his body. Looking at himself, his hands were so large compared to theirs. He could see the strength in them. He recalled how fast his body had moved, reacting to the cushion, and how much force he used, and it seemed like nothing. He wondered how strong he was. He took a wide stance and threw a left-handed strike with as much force as he could into the air. He could feel the air resist his motion, and heat build on his fist as the strike reached to the full extension. There was a loud crack in the air, and the room became turbulent with his hair pulled into the vacuum his fist had created, and the far wall shook with the force of the air hitting it, being projected from his fist. Holy shit, was all he could manage. Looking at his hand again, steam wisping from his knuckles. Yuki and Cyber had pulled their futons next to each other and were lying together. When you left me here, I was kind of grateful you gave me space, Cyber, but I felt bad. I didn't want to hurt you. Yuki was staring up at the ceilings. I did feel hurt. You had always been honest with me about what you were thinking, so seeing you close off like that felt like you were rejecting me, like you wanted to distance yourself from me. Cyber was glad they were having this conversation, but remembering how Lal felt brought the emotions back. I know, and to be honest, that's what I was doing. Not rejecting you, but rejecting the situation, because of my lack of confidence. I don't want to have regrets either, you know, but most of my regrets come from things I have done, rather than from things I haven't done. There's only one real regret for things I hadn't done, from which everything else stems. I have made many mistakes compounding on that first mistake of inaction. It's easier to live with regrets of action, I think. If you do something and try your best, then at least you know that. But if you sit and do nothing, then you might always wonder what could have been, Cyber said. Yuki turned towards Cyber, who had been looking at the small girl the whole time. You really are pretty. You are really pretty, Cyber. And she closed the gap between them and kissed Lur. I hope I'm more than just a pretty face to you, Lal said after the kiss, a smile on Lur's lips, pushing Yuki down face up on the futon, straddling her. Of course you're more than just a pretty face, Yuki said nervously in this vulnerable position. Oh yeah? Cyber breathed, bringing Lur's mouth close to Yuki's neck. Yuki felt the hot breath on her neck. The sensation sent sparks down her back, the hair standing on end. She raised her right knee impulsively and pressed into Cyber's groin. Lal gasped at the touch, not expected. Yuki quickly lowered her knee, realizing what she just did, and turned her head, exposing the neck further, which Cyber had already been grazing. Cyber licked the little girl's neck, and Yuki's head began to feel hazy. Too much, she protested. Do you really mean that? Cyber asked, seriously pulling away, resting Lur's weight on Lur's arms and knees rather than more on the other's body, as Lal had been doing previously. Cyber asked seriously, pulling away, resting Lur's weight on Lur's arms and knees rather than more on the other's body, as Lal had been doing previously. I know just recognizing you have a problem and wanting to confront it might not be enough to actually fix it. So, if you need time, I want to give it to you. I don't want to go too far. That's what I was worried about most already. Cyber wanted to go further. Lal wanted to do everything, to have everything done unto Lur. It was almost killing Lur. Lur's curiosity about how Lal could make Lur's partner feel, what sensations Lal could elicit, how she tasted and felt, every corner of her body and mind, a new feature to discover, to explore. But more important than any of that, Lal wanted to respect Lur's friend's pace. She lacked an essential confidence that she needed, and violating her boundaries would only make things worse. I've never felt like this before, being the object of someone else's desire and passion. It feels like I might lose myself, Yuki explained. She pulled herself up into a sitting position from under Cyber. Maybe if we reverse roles for a little bit, she offered. Okay, that's fine with me, Cyber said, satisfied with that. Tell me if you want me to stop, Yuki said, looking at her friend seriously. You don't need to worry about that, Law replied, almost rolling her eyes at the thought of it going too further than Law could be comfortable with. Law wanted to do everything after all. Please promise me that you'll tell me anyway. I'm kind of dumb, and when it comes to subtlety, I need to be told directly. I want to know that you will tell me. Yuki was resolute in her request. I promise, Cyber said seriously, meeting Yuki's eyes, seeing how important she considered it. Thank you, Yuki let out a deep sigh. So how do you want me? Cyber asked. The idea of presenting herself as if on a platter crossed her mind. Just like that, Yuki and Cyber were face to face, sitting on their legs in Seiza-like position. Yuki brought her hands up and touched Cyber's cheek softly, looking closely at the place where she touched. She could feel the small changes in the skin, its smoothness, the soft, nearly invisible hairs reacting slightly to her touch. Cyber closed her eyes, and a small smile graced the corner of her mouth. Yuki ran the tips of her fingers down her neck and forward slightly towards her chest, which was wrapped in an evening robe. She tugged slightly at the garment, then pressed her hand firmly to feel through it the other's heart. She could feel the breathing deep and reacting to her touch, and heart beating strong and quick. You have a strong heart, she said, and the other chuckled at the comment. Yuki was observing everything, the small movements of her companion. She slipped her hand into the robe and touched the bare skin of her chest with the slightest caress of her observant, delicate fingers. She followed the touch down, pulling the robe open against the tightness of the tie. Seeing it wouldn't budge, she removed her hand and undid the tie, opening the robe, exposing Cyber's chest and midriff. Cyber's body didn't have all the softness of the girl's, nor all the hardness of a boy's, but a soft blending of each. Yuki put her hand on Cyber's navel, then slipped it right and upwards, feeling the curves of the tight muscles under the thin skin. Upwards, towards her arm, feeling where the ribs began, then forward towards her small breast. There was not much fat on there. Not much fat there, but more than elsewhere on her slim frame. Yuki noticed she had been holding her breath and exhaled deeply before brushing her fingers across the other's nipple. Cyber reacted sharply to the sensation that flowed from the touch, downward toward her groin, her member rousing sharply, almost painfully at the touch. Sorry, Yuki responded, pulling her hand back quickly. Cyber shook her head. No, it feels nice. Opening her eyes to see her love breathing hard. I started this and I like it. There are just things that are new about it. Not just that it's another person, but Lowell looked down and gestured. It looks like you woke something up down there. Yuki couldn't see but knew what Lowell meant. Lowell took Yuki's hand and in Lur's and placed it on the region, having her feel Lur hardness through Lur Hakama. Yuki's redness deepened, and her hand felt for the edges of Cyber's member. It was larger than her hand, but not by too much, she guessed. She moved her hands toward the top of the Hakama as to pull it down. I think it might be easier if I do that, Cyber said, adding, if that's okay. Yuki could only give one sharp nod. Cyber undid the tie of Lur Hakama and stood using the robe to keep herself covered for now, dropped the bottoms and stepped back out of them, swept them aside with the Lur foot, and returned to Lur's previous position. Yuki pulled the robe aside and looked at Cyber's body and its members standing proud and uncut, nipples erect on small mounds. Cyber's face began to redden and Lowell looked away. Are you just going to stare? Lowell said. The response was a sensation of wet warmth on Lur's right nipple. Ah, Cyber gasped. Yuki pressed Lowell back onto the small of Lur's feet twisting forward and supporting Lurself somewhat upright with Lur's arms. Lay down, Yuki said, briefly pausing from licking Cyber's nipple. As the queen orders, Cyber chided with a smirk. The Miko said everything works right, Yuki said before surrounding Cyber's nipple again with her lips. Yes, that's what she said. Cyber had a hard time getting the words out. Yuki used her hand to explore Cyber's body while tending Lur's nipple with her tongue and teeth, the small nibbles and licks. Slowly, she made her way through the small growth of thin pubic hair and toward her penis, giving a tender touch, feeling its warmth within her small hand. If everything means everything, she continued the thought, and simultaneously moved her hand further down toward the base of the back of Cyber's penis, where it met with her labia majora. Does that mean you could get yourself pregnant? Yuki finished her question. The massive sensation Cyber was feeling prevented her from answering right away. Lal hadn't thought about it yet, but could only guess that Lal could. Why do you have to make this weird? Lal finally got the words out. Just something I thought. Sorry if it made it too weird, Yuki said, pulling up toward her lover's face, giving Lur a kiss. No, it's not. You might be right, though. Although it probably isn't something I need to worry about. Unless I tried to get anything in there, it's not likely to happen on accident. Probably, Cyber said. Lur's curiosity was somewhat piqued by the idea. But there's no way that Lal wanted to try it just to see. Well, I think I'm ready for your turn now, Yuki said softly. If you don't want, I don't want to press further, Cyber offered. But Lur's eyes and face couldn't hide Lur's excitement. Well, I don't know if I'm ready for... She looked down at Cyber's penis. That, I think, might break me, Yuki added. Just as far as you're willing, then, Cyber said, propping herself up. Do you want me to disrobe, or... Yuki was clearly nervous. Just the bottoms, like me. Okay. Yuki stood up and turned away from Cyber and undid her bottom tie and dropped it to the floor. Before she could turn around, Cyber lifted the back of the short girl's robe, revealing her butt and the small of her back. Cute, Lal said, grabbing one of the small cheeks, and Yuki let out a small eep, turning around quickly, slight dissatisfaction on her face. Sorry, I couldn't help myself, Cyber apologized. You really are adorable. Yuki grumbled slightly, then smiled, sitting herself down in Seiza position again. Lay down, my little princess. Cyber lusted, and Yuki obliged. Be gentle, she said. And Cyber nodded. Lur response, looking at the small, tender frame of Lur friend, lover. Lal opened the robe to see the body of her love. Lal opened up the robe to see the body of Lur love. Small, no pubic hair on her pubic mons at all, nor any breasts to speak of. Tiny nipples hard on the slender frame. Lal wanted to just dive into that body and consume it, but seeing how Yuki had taken her time, starting slowly, Lal decided to put that thought away. This had to be about compromise between their desires, and Lal had to be cognizant of Yuki's apprehension. Cyber threw off Lur's robe, then brought Lur's own body above Yuki's, kissing her stomach softly, then moving up with small kisses on her chest, avoiding the nipples for now. Cyber kissed every part of Yuki's torso, stomach, chest, then up to her neck. Yuki was breathing hard, almost with pain. Cyber brought Lur's mouth to Yuki's, which had been hanging open in labored breath, kissing her deeply. While kissing, their tongues exploring, Lal moved Lur's hand down the slender body and finally made its way toward the erect nipple. A shock pulsed through the youth's body, and Cyber smiled at the reaction. Lal broke away from the kiss, then down towards the other's nipple with Lur's mouth. Lal didn't think it was as satisfying as it would be when Yuki developed breasts of her own, but the reactions Lur teased from Yuki were satisfying on their own. Yuki's body felt like fire, and it was all she could do not to melt away into bliss. She focused on what she was feeling, memorizing each new sensation. Cyber pulled Lur's hand down and made Lur way towards Yuki's thigh. For such a small frame, her thighs were comparatively plump and so silky. Cyber moved Lur's hand then toward the crotch, and Yuki, after some hesitation, obliged by spreading her legs apart, inviting Cyber to explore. You think there are cigarettes in this world? Yuki said, her head nuzzled against Cyber's breast, the two of them laying nude together, both of them glistening slightly with perspiration. I have no idea, but I never smoked at all, so for me I don't really care, Cyber replied, still in the afterglow of their mutual performance. I picked it up a few years ago. Not really something I'd suggest, but the nicotine's forceful relaxation would be nice right now, Yuki explained. I guess a cigarette after sex became a meme for some reason, so that makes some sense. I don't think I'd mind, but if there aren't any here, it'll have to wait for next time. Lal offered. No, I don't really want to repeat that here, if I can help it. Plus, it might be strange for a little girl to be smoking here anyway. You really have a lot of hang-ups about how others see you, Cyber said flatly. Not really a judgment, more an observation. Yeah, you aren't wrong. It's hard to just accept what I want and to do it. I've always been afraid of being judged or hurt for being myself. Most people don't care about other people and how they live. Some people do, obviously, and they will mock you or try to change you. But those people aren't worth listening to. They don't really care about you. They just want to enforce their own worldview on others. So if it's not you for this or that, it's going to be someone else for something else. Always looking for something to be upset about. Those kinds of people. Cyber was making herself upset thinking about it, and cleared her mind with a deep breath. I think I may have just lived a long time around those kind of people and built my own version of them inside my head, so I can always hear their complaints. I hear you. I think you can move past it, but I don't think it's something that will happen fast. I wish I could take that voice and silence it for you. Cyber's hand on Yuki's arm caressed her. I know, love. Yuki blushed. I think this is the most at peace I've ever felt. It really is peaceful. Who knows about tomorrow? Right now, I don't know if I've ever been happier. I know I haven't. I almost feel bad about how happy I am. Yuki gripped Cyber in warm, tight embrace. Well, let's focus on those kinds of feelings and drive away the bad ones. One day at a time, Cyber replied. Good night, Hime. Good night, Hime-sama.